Success doesn't happen by chance. It's provoked. It's cultivated. It's forged in the background. There's a widely spread and dangerously comforting idea that successful people are just the lucky ones, that they were in the right place at the right time, that someone powerful discovered them, or that some external event favored them. But that's just an illusion, a convenient lie told by those who haven't yet understood how reality works. Success has never been a prize given to those who wait. It's a harvest, and everything that's harvested was once planted, watered, and cared for, in silence. It's born from the decisions you make when no one's watching, from the choices that seem too small to matter, but, over time, build a structure no one can tear down. That's why some shine brightly, while others merely wish. The difference isn't talent, it's commitment. While many wait for the perfect day to start, those who build the extraordinary have already learned that the ideal moment never arrives ready. It's created through action. They don't live dependent on motivation because they know how fragile it is. They live by an internal pact with their own future. Look at any person you admire, anyone who has achieved something meaningful, and you'll see that above all, they developed an inner pattern, a way of thinking and acting that isn't shaken by the outside world. It doesn't matter if it's raining or sunny, if people believe or doubt, if the day is great or terrible. They do what needs to be done, period. This kind of strength doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from pretty quotes. It comes from repeating the right actions, from resisting easy impulses, from choosing what builds you, even when no one sees. Most people are trapped chasing quick results, but those who want something truly great live for the long build. You can have all the tools in the world, time, money, information, contacts. But if your mindset is misaligned, none of it will flourish. Because what turns opportunity into achievement isn't what you have, it's what you can do consistently, even on the hardest days. And that demands a solid, invisible, non-negotiable foundation, your identity. Here's the key point. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you represent, what you uphold, what you embody. And you can only embody what you've built from the inside out. That's why success doesn't begin with the how, it begins with the who. The question that changes everything isn't, what do I need to do to win, but rather, who do I need to become so that winning becomes inevitable? That question forces you to look at your patterns, at your self-sabotage, at your excuses and outdated beliefs. It rips the mask off and shows you, with brutal clarity, where you've been lying to yourself. And when you ask that question with honesty, it leads you to act differently, to wake up earlier, to take care of what no one sees, to give up what seems pleasurable but is stealing your strength, to silence the noise of comparison, to ignore the fear of criticism, because you stop trying to appear and start being. Imagine someone who walks into any room and doesn't need to speak for people to feel their presence. They don't force respect, they radiate it. They don't try to be heard. They're impossible to ignore. That doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from inner integrity, from a journey built on relentless effort, on emotional responsibility, on an unbreakable personal commitment. You may not be the smartest in the room. You may not have the perfect past. But if you have clarity about who you want to become and the discipline to uphold that commitment daily, you become dangerous to everything that once held you back. Because identity precedes destiny. Stop chasing results like you're running after a shadow. Start chasing your inner evolution, your presence, your silent discipline, your unshakable character. Success is not a finish line. It's a reflection of how you choose to live every day, especially when no one's watching. And if you keep negotiating with your weakness, you'll keep postponing a life that could already be yours. But if you decide today, right now, to become someone who lives as if you've already won, the world will have no choice but to make room for you. Because in the end, it's not about achieving something out there. It's about becoming someone so steady, so aligned, so committed to your truth that success stops being a coincidence and becomes an inevitable consequence. Changing your mindset is the first step, but it's not enough. You need direction, a destination, clarity in your gaze. Many people are putting in effort but remain stuck in the same place. People who wake up early, work hard, try everything, yet end the day feeling stagnant. Do you know why? Because effort doesn't determine progress. Direction does. You can row with all your strength, but if you're facing the wrong way, you'll only drift further from your goal. The absence of clarity is the first poison of achievement, and it's the most common. Most people say they want success, but they can't even define what it means. They say they want freedom, but don't know what kind of prison they're trying to escape. They say they want peace, but keep feeding environments and habits that generate the opposite. That's why vague goals don't create movement. Generic desires don't spark real action. The human brain doesn't respond to abstract phrases like, "I want to be happy," "I want to be rich," or "I want to be recognized." It needs a target, precision, a vision so clear you can almost touch it. Without that, everything becomes noise, anxiety, frustration. You can't build something great on top of blurry intentions. You must turn ideas into plans, wants into goals, goals into commitments, and commitments into daily rituals. That's the foundation of consistent success. How many times have you started something with excitement only to abandon it halfway through? Not because it was impossible, but because at some point you lost your sense of purpose, you lost clarity, your motivation evaporated because there was no structure to hold it up. Motivation is like a spark, but without ongoing fuel, it dies out. And the fuel that keeps the flame alive is clarity, knowing exactly why you started, where you want to go, what you're willing to sacrifice, and what you're doing today that either gets you closer or further from your destination. Goals aren't just pretty words on a wall. They are maps, anchors, guides that stop your mind from being swept away by the world's distractions. And they only work when they are specific, measurable, time-bound, and emotionally aligned with your truth. You need to know what you want, why you want it, and what you're willing to give up to get there. That gives you power, focus. It shields you from superficiality. Because when you have direction, you don't get lost in shortcuts. Make no mistake, you will be tested. Opportunities will arise that don't match your purpose. Invitations will appear that seem promising, but are just distractions in disguise. Without clarity, you'll say yes to anything. With clarity, you'll learn to say no with ease, because you'll understand that every no to something mediocre is a yes to what truly matters. Clarity transforms your schedule. When you know what you want, what matters stands out, and what doesn't simply fades. You stop running in circles and start walking in a straight line. Every action gains weight. Every choice gains meaning. Even your smallest habits become part of a bigger plan. Here's a detail most people overlook. Clarity isn't a gift from the universe. It's built. It's born from writing, reflection, self-knowledge. The courage to ask yourself, with brutal honesty, what do I really want? What's holding me back? Where am I lying to myself? What decisions am I avoiding? These questions are uncomfortable, but they clear the path. They uproot fear and conformity. They place you face to face with your own responsibility. It's not about filling your life with tasks. It's about filling your tasks with meaning. The difference is massive, because those who live full of activity but empty of purpose end the day exhausted and unfulfilled. But those who live with intention, even doing less, feel peace, direction, true progress. So if you feel like you're working hard but getting nowhere, stop everything for a moment. Breathe, reevaluate, redesign your future. Because no wind favors someone who doesn't know where they're going. And every journey needs a fixed point, a North Star, a place your soul recognizes as true. Want to change your reality? Start by naming what you want to experience. Design your next version in detail. Build goals with timelines. Turn dreams into systems. And then, commit to moving forward. One step at a time, every single day, even when no one's watching. Clarity frees you from chaos, gives you back control, turns you into someone who doesn't just live, but lives with direction. And that alone puts you light years ahead of most people. You will fall. You will fail. You will get frustrated. And that's exactly where everything truly begins. There is no growth without pain, no overcoming without failure, no transformation without conflict. And the sooner you accept that truth, the sooner you'll stop being disappointed by life's inevitable challenges and start using them as fuel. Falling is not the opposite of winning. It's part of the path. Every stumble, every rejection, every plan that collapses carries a seed of strength within it. But that strength only blooms for those who have the courage to keep going, even when the ground disappears beneath their feet. Most people give up at the first sign of hardship because they still believe success is a straight line, that if they just want it badly enough and work hard, everything will flow smoothly. But real life doesn't work like that. It tests you, it challenges you, it shakes you, and those tests aren't random. They're invitations. Invitations to grow, to mature, to develop the emotional armor needed to carry the weight of the greatness you claim to want. Resilience isn't about surviving one tough moment. It's about enduring as many as it takes. It's not just about taking the hit. It's about keeping on walking with scraped knees, teary eyes, and a shattered heart. It's about pushing forward even when no one is watching. Do you want something big? Then get ready to be ignored, criticized, and ridiculed. There will be silence when you expected support, indifference where you hoped for recognition. But those empty spaces are not punishments. They're filters. They reveal who is ready to keep going without guarantees. Here's the brutal truth. If you can't handle failure, you'll never be ready for success. Because success comes with responsibilities, pressure, and risk. It demands emotional stability, and that stability is built on the days when everything goes wrong and you still choose to do what's right. Remember, the greatest achievements in history were preceded by the harshest rejections. Abraham Lincoln lost several elections before becoming president. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before lighting the bulb. Walt Disney was rejected for lack of creativity. The difference? They didn't stop. They heard the no and answered with, "Then I'll try again." You don't need to be unbreakable. You need to be relentless. You need to be the kind of person who, even broken, keeps going, who insists even when exhausted, who takes one more step even in the dark. Because that one step changes everything. Not because it's magical, but because it proves to yourself that you won't back down. Pain will come. Doubt will come. The urge to disappear will come. But none of that means you're weak. It means you're in the process. The problem was never feeling fear. The problem is letting fear decide for you. Here's the secret of those who win. They fall too, but they don't lose focus. They cry too, but they don't lose their rhythm. They feel fear too, but they keep moving toward what they believe in. They know quitting is always the easiest option, and that's exactly why they reject it with everything they've got. Want to know if you're ready for something greater? Look at how you react when everything goes wrong. Because it's easy to stand tall when everything flows. The hard part is holding your ground when the world collapses. And do you know what strengthens resilience? Vision. The clarity of your why. When you have a strong enough reason, the how becomes just a detail. The reason lifts you up, drives you, rebuilds you. You don't have to pretend everything's fine all the time. You don't have to smile while bleeding. You just have to keep going. One step a day, one more small effort, one silent restart. Because the repetition of persistence builds emotional muscle. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can choose what to do with what hurts you. You can choose to turn the fall into a lesson, the criticism into focus, the rejection into courage. In the end, it won't be your appearance, your background, your resume, or your connections that determine how far you'll go. It'll be your ability to keep going even when everything seems lost. Because every great self-builder has, at some point, walked through total darkness and decided to light their own path. And if you keep walking, even wounded, even in silence, even in doubt, one day, inevitably, life will have to reward you. Because the universe respects those who refuse to stop. You can lose everything. You can fail publicly. You can be ignored by everyone. But if you don't lose faith in yourself, you're still in the game. Real self-confidence isn't what shows up on social media, in rehearsed language, or a forced tone of voice. It's not about looking strong. It's about being strong on the inside, even if no one sees it. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing, deep down, that you can walk through anything, even if you're still learning how. Most people build their confidence based on others' acceptance. They feel good when they're praised, supported, or recognized. But when that disappears, and it always does, everything falls apart. Because the foundation was fragile, propped up by applause. True confidence is born in silence. When you follow through on what you promised yourself, when no one's watching, when no one believes in you, and you keep going anyway. It doesn't come from validation. It comes from repetition, from integrity, from the alignment between what you say you want and what you actually do. Even when it's hard, you grow stronger every time you choose not to sabotage yourself. Every time you choose discipline over excuses. Every time you take one more step, even afraid. Because that's where real confidence is built. Not as a feeling, but as the accumulated result of consistent actions. And that's why some people, even without the typical success profile, achieve much more than others. Because while some doubt themselves for not feeling ready, others believe that action is what will make them ready. You might be surrounded by doubt right now. You might feel small. You might have gone through humiliations that shook your faith. But hear this. No one in this world can stop you if you decide, truly decide, to believe in yourself before anyone else does. Those who leave deep marks in the world were rarely understood at first. Many were ridiculed, dismissed, ignored, but they had an inner conviction, a fire that didn't need an audience to keep burning. Think of the great names in history. How many were rejected before making history? How many were discredited before proving their worth? What sustained them? Not the support of others, but personal conviction. The quiet certainty that time would reveal what others couldn't yet see. And you? Are you waiting for others to validate you before starting? Waiting to feel ready, confident, secure? Then you might wait forever. Because fear never goes away completely. Doubt always whispers. And that's where the secret lies, acting anyway. True self-confidence is built in the decision to walk, even with shaky legs. It's built when you trade the need for applause for the strength of persistence, when you stop asking for permission to live your truth, when you take the wheel of your own journey, even if the road ahead is dark. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be firm. You need to be consistent. You need to be someone who keeps their word, who owns their mistakes, who learns from failures, who, even when everything seems to go wrong, doesn't abandon themselves. The most powerful voice you can hear is your own. But for that to happen, it must be trustworthy. And it only becomes trustworthy when you stop betraying yourself, when you stop abandoning your plans at the first sign of difficulty, when you stop treating yourself like someone weak. Every negative thought you have about yourself can be reprogrammed. Every memory that weakens you can be redefined. Every story of failure can be rewritten with discipline, focus, and courage. And no, This isn't empty self-help. It's daily practice. It's emotional consistency. It's you learning to embrace yourself through failure and rise with even more strength. So pause now and reflect. Where are you still shrinking yourself? In what areas are you still waiting for approval? Where is your confidence tied to what others think? Because until you cut those invisible strings, your strength will remain chained. Start today to rebuild your foundation. Honor your commitments. Speak less and deliver more. Silence your doubts with action. And if you're going to listen to anyone, let it be your strongest self, the one that already lives inside you and is ready to lead your next chapter. In the end, the world doesn't respect who shouts. It respects who is. And being begins from within. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is decision. And it's decision that builds your destiny. Most people believe they'll only be able to act when they're feeling inspired. They wait for the right mood, the right day, the right feeling. But anyone who has achieved any level of greatness knows this wait is a trap, because motivation is unstable. It's volatile. It's like the wind. Sometimes it blows. Sometimes it vanishes. And if your life depends on it, you'll never be consistent. Discipline is the opposite. Discipline is what you do even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired, even when nothing's going your way. It's a cold, strategic, and powerful choice. A choice you repeat until it becomes identity. The most extraordinary results anyone can reach are almost always built from ordinary actions repeated with precision. And that's exactly where most people fail. They want massive results with fragile habits. They want transformation without routine. They want progress without process. But the truth is simple. Discipline is the invisible pillar of every great victory. It's what holds your mind together on the days everything seems to fall apart. It's what pulls you out of bed when your body begs for more sleep. It's what makes you get up when fatigue turns into excuses. It's what protects you from yourself when self-sabotage starts whispering. It's not hard to see why most people quit halfway. They confuse excitement with determination. And the moment the initial thrill fades, as it always does, everything else stops with it. Reading stops. The diet stops. The project gets shelved. The plan is postponed. The gym becomes, "I'll go back Monday." And life turns into a cycle of restarts that never finish. But the one who understands the power of discipline doesn't live off motivation. They live off rituals, commitments, non-negotiable habits. They don't wake up and ask if they feel like it. They wake up and execute. That's it. And this isn't about living a cold, robotic life. It's about understanding that emotion follows action. That true satisfaction comes from seeing the results of a hard choice repeated over and over. That freedom lies in doing what needs to be done, not just what feels good in the moment. Discipline isn't oppression. It's structure. It's inner strength. It's the foundation upon which you build anything that lasts. At first, it feels hard, uncomfortable, heavy, but over time, it becomes your greatest ally. It frees you from procrastination, emotional swings, and the guilt of unkept promises. And here's a secret no one likes to hear. Discipline hurts less than regret, because you'll pay a price either way. Either you pay the price of daily action, or you pay the price of lost time, of postponed dreams, of the frustration of not becoming who you were meant to be. You don't have to start big. You don't have to change everything overnight. You just need to choose one starting point and stay consistent. One habit at a time. One simple commitment every day. And believe this, that's enough to change your future. Think about it. How many times have you started something and quit? How many times have you made a promise to yourself and didn't follow through? That didn't just break goals, it broke your trust in yourself. Because every broken promise weakens your relationship with your own word. But every time you follow through, even in silence, even when no one notices, something inside you strengthens. You start trusting yourself again. You begin to feel in control, and that feeling, being the owner of yourself, is priceless. Discipline gives you back power, the power to choose, to act, to grow, the power to no longer rely on passing emotions, the power to move through hard days with poise, because you know you're building something bigger. And with time, what once was hard becomes natural. What once took effort becomes part of who you are. Discipline becomes a lifestyle, a base, a force. So, if you truly want to change your life, forget the myth of eternal motivation. It's nice, but it's not reliable. Build something greater. Build your discipline, because at the end of the day, it's not the person who wants it most that wins. It's the one who shows up the most, with more consistency and fewer excuses. Growth is not a luxury. It's a necessity, and those who refuse to evolve eventually disappear. We live in a world that changes every day, fast, brutally, and relentlessly. What worked yesterday no longer serves today. What once made you stand out is now the bare minimum. And those who don't match this pace with awareness, focus, and humility are swallowed by their own pride. True success isn't static. It's not a place you arrive at and then rest. It's a continuous movement, a construction that never ends. That's why those who succeed aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who never stop learning. Most people sabotage themselves because they confuse information with evolution. They think that reading a lot means growing, that knowing more means doing better. But real growth isn't in what you know. It's in what you apply. It's in living what you learn, in turning theory into action, in becoming a truly different person after each lesson absorbed. To learn is more than to accumulate. It's to integrate, to change decisions, to break old patterns, to challenge your own certainties, to have the courage to look at everything you've done so far and admit that you can and must do better from now on. Many stay stuck in what they already know, in what they've already accomplished, in what they've already heard. They become experts at repeating the same speeches, the same ideas, the same behaviors. But what brought you here yesterday may be the very thing holding you back tomorrow. A mind closed to new possibilities begins to die, slowly. Because the world is generous with those who stay open, those who question, who observe, who understand that there's always something new to discover about the world, about others, and about themselves. And here's a non-negotiable truth. Growth always brings discomfort. Growth hurts because it demands revision, humility, the courage to admit you were wrong, that you could have done better, that you're not where you thought you were. And that wounds the ego, but it frees the soul. The true learner isn't the one who looks for new answers. It's the one who dares to reformulate old questions, who dares to question their own logic, who makes space for the new, even when they already have all the arguments to keep things the same. Stagnation smells like comfort, but tastes like regret. And when you choose to stop growing, you're really choosing to start dying. Because everything that doesn't evolve rots. Everything that doesn't transform becomes obsolete. You don't have to change everything at once, but you do need to always change something. A mindset, a behavior, a belief, a way of expressing yourself. Continuous learning is what keeps you from becoming a prisoner of your comfort zone. And make no mistake, too much comfort weakens you. Excessive safety numbs you, and a numb mind stops creating, stops daring, stops reinventing itself. So choose a posture that keeps you alive. Read, observe, talk to people who think differently. Question your own habits. Put yourself in rooms where you're not the smartest one. Surround yourself with stimuli that force you to expand. And more than that, put what you learn into practice. Test, adjust, refine, grow from the friction of experience. Because knowledge without action is just weight. But knowledge applied becomes wisdom. The great names who changed the world and still live on in history were the ones who refused to cling to their past selves. They knew that each new phase of life demands a new version of who you are, and they allowed themselves to die and be reborn as many times as needed. Are you stuck in what you already know? Too comfortable with your routine? Hiding behind the excuse that this is how I've always done it? Then maybe it's time to open space for the new, for discomfort, for risk, because that's where your next evolution lives. There's nothing more powerful than someone who reinvents themselves, who takes control of their own transformation, who doesn't wait for the world to change so they can change inside, because that kind of person is unstoppable. They grow every day, learn from everything, evolve through every stumble, and turn every loss into fuel. Do you want to be that kind of person? Then commit to lifelong learning, not as a hobby, but as a matter of survival. Because in a world that never stops changing, growing is not optional. It's essential. You can have the right mindset, the right discipline, the right vision, but if you're surrounded by the wrong people, all of it will slowly be sabotaged. Few things shape your life more than the environment you live in. The voices you hear every day, the conversations you take part in, the energy you absorb without even realizing it, all of that builds, reinforces, or weakens your identity. Sometimes, the problem isn't you. It's not a lack of effort or talent. It's the soil. It's the environment where you've taken root, a space that limits you, that drains you, that ridicules every attempt to rise above the average. A circle that normalizes mediocrity, that glorifies quitting, that disguises envy as concerned advice. Pause and think seriously. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? What do they talk about? How do they think? What do they value? Do they encourage your growth or keep you stuck in place? Do they celebrate your evolution or feel threatened by it? This may hurt, but it's essential, because your circle defines your ceiling. And as long as you're surrounded by people who are afraid to fly, you'll keep your wings folded just to avoid making them uncomfortable. You need people who think big, who live with purpose, who aren't scared by your ambition, who don't look away when you say you want more, who don't try to bring you back to reality just because they gave up on their dreams. Success doesn't happen in isolation, but it also can't survive in toxic soil. If necessary, change your environment, even if it hurts, even if it feels selfish, because protecting your mind is not selfish. It's your responsibility. And alongside your environment, there's another invisible force shaping your reality, your abundance mindset. While many live programmed by scarcity, believing there's not enough, that life is a competition, that someone else's success is a threat, those who grow believe the world is vast, fertile, and full of opportunity for those who act with courage and vision. Scarcity makes you distrust, compete, hold back, shrink. Abundance makes you collaborate, expand, share, create. Scarcity paralyzes. Abundance propels. Here's the secret. This mindset doesn't depend on how much you have. It depends on how you perceive what you already have. Gratitude, when practiced intentionally, isn't a cliché. It's fuel. It shifts your focus. It shifts your energy. It transforms how you respond to what's missing. The more you're grateful, the more you notice. The more you notice, the more you value. The more you value, the better you care for what you have. And what you care for grows. This is the invisible formula for quiet, lasting growth. But none of this matters if you don't have something that justifies the effort. And that's where purpose comes in. Purpose is your axis, the reason that holds you up when everything falls apart. The why that gives meaning to your pain. It doesn't have to be something grand in other people's eyes. It doesn't need fame or a spotlight, but it does need to move you. It needs to ignite something inside you. Passion is the fire, the enthusiasm, but purpose is the direction. And when those two meet, a power is born that doesn't depend on applause, that isn't shaken by failure, that walks through the darkest night with faith in the path ahead. You may have 1,000 excuses to stop. You could list every reason why your life hasn't worked out yet. But nothing will change until you stop waiting and start acting. Action is the dividing line between those who dream and those who deliver. And here's the truth that brings everything together. There won't be a perfect day. No one is coming to do it for you. The life you want isn't out there in the future. It's hidden in the version of you that hasn't fully stood up yet. So stand up. Now. Not tomorrow. Not when things are calm. Now. Because time is moving. The world is spinning. And while you're thinking, someone out there is doing. Stop negotiating with your fears. Stop asking for permission to live your truth. Stop justifying your stagnation with old stories. You already have everything you need. The discipline, the courage, the vision, the talent, the reason. The way forward won't open by itself, but it will open the moment you begin to walk. And when you move with truth, with strength, with intention, the world feels it. The universe responds. Doors align. The right people show up. Because life respects those who live with purpose. So decide. Now. Don't just dream. Don't just wish. Act. And become, finally, the person you were born to be.